I didn't notice the signs all at once. That's the part people always get wrong when I try to explain it later. They assume there was a moment, some clear before and after, where things stopped being normal. There wasn't. Everything that happened felt small enough to ignore on its own. It started with the lights. I'd come home in the evening and find one that I was sure I hadn't left on. Not every light, just one. The hallway or the lamp in the corner of the living room. At first, I blamed routine, muscle memory, the kind of thing you don't remember doing because it doesn't matter. So I started checking. Before leaving, I'd stand in the doorway and look around. Lights, switches, corners. I even said it out loud once just to lock it in. All off. When I came back that night, the hallway light was on. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at it, trying to replay the morning in my head. I could see myself turning it off. I remembered the click. But memory isn't proof. I turned the light off and didn't think about it again. The next sign was smaller. I keep my keys in a shallow ceramic dish by the door. They've always gone there. It's one of those habits you don't question until it's disrupted. One afternoon, I reached for them and felt nothing. The dish was empty. My first thought wasn't fear, it was irritation. I assumed I'd set them down somewhere else without realizing it. I searched the usual places: the kitchen counter, the bathroom sink, the bedroom dresser. I found them back in the dish an hour later. I laughed. Out loud, it felt ridiculous to be unsettled by something so minor. I told myself I must have missed them the first time, that my eyes had slid right over them. That night, I put the keys in my pocket instead of the dish, just to be sure. That's when I started noticing how often things felt corrected. Not changed, not disturbed, corrected. A chair pulled slightly closer to the table than I remembered. A book on the coffee table turned so the spine faced the other direction. The shower curtain pulled closed when I was sure I'd left it open. Every time, there was an explanation. I'd shifted it earlier. I'd bumped it. I'd remembered wrong. I didn't panic. There was nothing to panic about. Not yet. The first time I found actual evidence, I didn't know what to do with it. It was a footprint. Not a full one. Just the front half, faint and gray, on the tile near the back door. Too small to be a shoe. Too defined to be dirt dragged in by the wind. I stared at it for a long time, trying to decide whether it belonged to me. It didn't. I tested that, placed my foot over it. The shape was wrong. That was the moment I felt the urge to call someone. Not the police, not yet. I just wanted another set of eyes. Someone to confirm I wasn't missing something obvious. Before I could take a picture, my phone buzzed. A text. Nothing important. I looked away for maybe 3 seconds. When I looked back, the footprint was gone. Not smeared, not fading, gone. The tile was clean, cold, empty. That was when my stomach tightened in a way I didn't like. The signs didn't stay. I started documenting after that. At first, it was casual. Notes in my phone, timestamps, simple descriptions. Hallway, light on again, 9:12 p.m. Keys moved, no explanation. It felt responsible, rational. The more I wrote things down, the more often things happened. Not bigger things, just more frequent. Lights turning on faster, objects shifting within minutes instead of hours. Doors I knew I'd closed, sitting open just enough to notice. I bought a small notebook and left it on the kitchen counter. Something physical, something that couldn't glitch or crash. The first entry I wrote in it vanished. Not the notebook, just the page. I know how that sounds, but that's exactly what happened. I wrote the date, a few sentences, closed it. The next morning, the notebook was in the same spot. The page was blank. No tear marks, no indentation, no trace of ink. I tested the pen. It worked fine. And that's when I stopped trying to catch things in the act. Instead, I looked for after effects. A smudge on the wall that hadn't been there before. A glass on the counter with condensation rings, even though I lived alone. The faint smell of soap in the bathroom sink hours after I'd last been in there. Every time I tried to show someone, the evidence failed me. Photos didn't match what I remembered. Notes didn't make sense when I read them later. Once, I took a picture of a door handle that had been turned upside down. When I checked the image later, it was normal, perfectly normal. That was the worst part. Not that things were happening, that I couldn't prove they had. I stopped talking about it, but I didn't stop watching. The signs seemed to respond to that. If I ignored a light being on, it stayed on. If I turned it off and made a note, it came back later that night. If I didn't check the dish for my keys, they stayed put. If I checked twice, they were somewhere else by morning. It felt like attention was the trigger. I tested that idea without meaning to. One night, I left the hallway light on when I went to bed, deliberately. I didn't check it, didn't make a note, didn't even look back. In the morning, it was still on. No movement, no correction. That day, nothing else happened. The house felt quiet in a way I hadn't realized it hadn't been. So, I did it again. I stopped documenting, stopped double-checking, stopped looking for proof. The signs slowed. They didn't stop completely, but they lost urgency, lost precision. Like whatever was happening no longer needed to prove itself. The only times things escalated were when I slipped. When I counted footsteps I hadn't heard before. When I tested a door handle just to see if it was warm. When I stared too long at a shadow that didn't line up with the light source. Those were the nights something always answered back. Not dramatically, just enough. A light clicking on, a chair shifting. A trace that would be gone by morning, always evidence, never blame. That's when I understood the real problem. I wasn't being haunted. I was being corrected. The house didn't want witnesses, it wanted compliance. I moved out not long after that. Told people it was for work, for a change, for space. All true, in a way. My new place is quieter, smaller, easier to control, and I've learned something since then. I don't check as much anymore, I don't chase signs, I don't document, I don't try to understand. Because whatever was happening didn't follow me, it followed my attention. And the only way I ever found to make it stop was to give it nothing to work with. The first time someone else noticed something, I felt relieved. That should have been a warning. I'd already learned not to talk about what was happening in my house. Not because I was scared of being judged, but because explaining it always made it sound smaller than it felt. Like I was sanding the edges off something sharp just by putting it into words. So I kept it to myself, until the night my sister stayed over. She was in town for work and didn't want to pay for a hotel. It wasn't unusual. She'd slept on my couch plenty of times before. I didn't think twice about it. That was my mistake. We ate dinner, talked about nothing important, watched something forgettable on TV. The house behaved itself. No lights, no movement, no signs. I remember thinking how quiet everything felt. Normal. She went to bed early. I stayed up later than usual, scrolling on my phone, half listening to the refrigerator hum. When I finally turned the lights off and headed toward my bedroom, I noticed the bathroom light was on. I stopped. I knew it had been off. I stood there, staring at the glow under the door, feeling that familiar tightening in my chest. The urge to document it rose automatically. note the time, check the switch, confirm the detail. I didn't. I turned the light off and went to bed. The next morning, my sister brought it up before I could. "Did you leave the bathroom light on all night?" she asked casually, pouring coffee. I froze. "No," I said. Too quickly. She shrugged. "It was on when I woke up. I figured you forgot." She said it lightly, no suspicion, no concern. But my stomach dropped. She'd seen it. The rest of the day passed without incident. I convinced myself it didn't matter. One shared observation didn't change anything. It didn't mean anything. That night proved me wrong. I woke up to the sound of footsteps. Not loud, not rushed, measured. They came from the living room. Slow pacing. A pause, then movement again. I lay still, listening, telling myself it was my sister getting up for water or using the bathroom. That explanation made sense. It was reasonable. Until I heard her door open, then close. The footsteps didn't stop. They continued. That was when I noticed something else. The sound wasn't coming from where she was. It was coming from the hallway between our rooms. I held my breath and waited for a light to click on. It didn't. Instead, the pacing stopped directly outside my door. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Long enough for my heart to slow. Long enough for the fear to flatten into something dull and heavy. Eventually, the sound moved away. The house went quiet. In the morning, my sister looked tired. "Did you walk around last night?" she asked, frowning. "No," I said. She hesitated. "I heard someone in the hall. I thought it was you." We stood there staring at each other. That was the moment I should have shut it down. Changed the subject. Lied. Instead, I asked, "What did it sound like?" She described the same thing I'd heard. Slow, intentional, like someone deciding where to go next. The house didn't feel right after that. Not hostile, not threatening, alert. Things happened faster. Lights turned on while we were both in the same room. A chair scraped softly across the floor behind us while we were watching TV. A door closed on its own with just enough force to be heard. Each time, my sister reacted before I could stop her. "Did you see that?" Okay, that wasn't me. Something's wrong with this place. Her attention felt different from mine. Sharper, more demanding. She wanted answers. The signs responded. The last night she stayed over, the kitchen cabinet doors opened. All of them. We were sitting on the couch, the TV was off, no distractions, no noise to hide behind. The sound was unmistakable. Hinges creaking softly, wood shifting. We watched as every cabinet door swung open at once. Not violently, carefully, like someone making sure they were all evenly spaced. My sister stood up. "I'm not staying here tonight," she said. That was when the refrigerator light turned on. The door stayed closed, just the light. She backed toward the door, eyes fixed on the kitchen. I didn't try to stop her. After she left, the house went still, not quiet, still. Nothing moved for days. No lights, no sounds, no corrections. I thought that might be the end of it. I was wrong. Because once someone else had seen it, the house didn't need me anymore. It started happening when I wasn't there. I'd come home to find the bedroom light on, or a window unlocked, or a note on my phone that I didn't remember typing. Sometimes my sister would text me first. "Why did you leave your porch light on all night?" "I drove by and your kitchen light was on again." I stopped responding. I stopped checking. But other people didn't. A neighbor asked if I'd been moving furniture late at night. The landlord mentioned a complaint about noise. A friend who stopped by briefly asked why my bathroom mirror was fogged when no one had showered. Each new witness made things worse. More frequent, more obvious. It was like the house wanted confirmation. I tried staying somewhere else for a few nights. When I came back, every light was on. Every room. The electricity bill spiked. The landlord called, asked if I was having wiring issues. I said yes. I lied easily by then. The night I realized how bad it had become, I woke up to voices. Not words, just the sound of people talking in the other room, the rise and fall of conversation without meaning, the kind of noise you hear through walls at a party. I opened my bedroom door. The living room was empty. The voices stopped the moment I stepped into the hallway. In the morning, my sister called me. She sounded shaken. "I had a dream about your place," she said. I didn't ask her to explain. She told me anyway. She described rooms she'd never been in, objects she'd never touched, details she shouldn't have known. That was the final confirmation. It wasn't tied to the house. It was tied to awareness. Once someone noticed, they stayed connected. I moved out a week later, didn't tell anyone where I was going. I stopped inviting people over, stopped letting them stay, stopped talking about what had happened. Over time, the signs faded. Not completely, but enough. I still get messages sometimes. Someone asking if I remember something strange. Someone describing a light turning on where it shouldn't have. I never confirm it. I don't ask questions, because the worst thing I learned wasn't that something was happening. It was that the moment more than one person agreed on it, it started acting like it had permission. The first thing my girlfriend noticed wasn't the lights. It was the smell. She stopped in the doorway one evening, keys still in her hand, and asked if I'd been cooking. I hadn't. She stepped inside anyway, sniffed the air once, then twice. "It smells like soap," she said. Like someone just washed their hands. I told her it was probably the sink, or the dishwasher, or nothing. She accepted that answer immediately, which surprised me. She wasn't the type to linger on small things. She noticed them, processed them, and moved on. That should have reassured me. Instead, it made me uneasy. She stayed over most nights by then. She had her own place, but it was easier to be together here. Familiar routines, shared space. We knew where everything was, or at least I thought we did. The signs didn't happen more often when she was around. They happened more precisely. A lamp turning on while we were both in the room. A cabinet door closing softly behind us while we were brushing our teeth. A chair pulled out just enough to catch the back of her leg when she walked past it. Each time she paused. Not startled, not scared, just observant. "Did you move that?" she'd ask. And each time I'd say no. That was the rule I'd learned by then. No elaboration, no speculation, no attention beyond acknowledgement. She followed it instinctively. We didn't talk about it at first. We didn't need to. The sign stayed small, almost polite. Like the house was aware it was being watched by more than one person and didn't want to push too hard. The first time we both saw the same thing happen, we were in the kitchen. She was rinsing a glass. I was leaning against the counter watching her. The room was quiet in that way. It gets late at night when everything has already settled. The overhead light flickered. Once, then steadied. We both looked up at the same time. Neither of us spoke. The light flickered again, then turned off completely. Not a power outage. The rest of the house stayed lit. Just the kitchen. She set the glass down slowly. I waited for her to ask a question. She didn't. Instead, she reached past me and turned the light back on. It stayed on. We stood there for a moment, listening. Nothing else happened. She picked up the glass again and finished rinsing it, like the interruption hadn't mattered. That was the moment everything changed. Not because something happened, but because we both agreed it had. After that, the signs stopped pretending to be subtle. They didn't escalate dramatically. They synchronized. If I noticed a light, she noticed it too. If she paused in a doorway, I already knew why. We started adjusting without talking about it, leaving lights on instead of turning them off, not fixing small things that felt wrong. Letting doors stay open if they opened on their own. The house responded by calming down. That was the unsettling part. The nights we ignored things together were quiet, peaceful even. The air felt less tense, like something had relaxed. The nights one of us slipped were different. The first time it happened, it was me. I woke up thirsty and got out of bed without thinking. On my way back, I noticed the bathroom mirror looked wrong. Not broken, not fogged, just deeper than it should have. I stood there too long, tilted my head, tried to focus on the reflection. Behind me, I heard her shift in bed. The mirror corrected itself instantly. When I got back under the covers, she rolled toward me. "Don't do that," she said quietly. "Do what?" I asked. "Stop and stare," she said. "It doesn't like that." I didn't ask how she knew. I didn't need to. After that, she started setting rules. Not out loud, not formally, she just adjusted. She stopped turning lights off behind herself. Stopped closing doors all the way, stopped picking things up if they weren't where she expected them to be. When I asked why she didn't move a chair that was half blocking the hallway, she shrugged. "It's fine there," she said. "It wants to be noticed, not corrected." The way she said it bothered me. Not because it sounded strange, because it sounded practiced. She adapted faster than I did. She learned which things to ignore and which things to accept. She never checked twice, never tried to confirm, never tried to test. And when she followed the rules she'd quietly worked out, the house stayed calm. When I didn't, it pushed back. A light clicking on while I was alone. A drawer sliding open behind me. The faint sound of movement when I stayed up too late thinking. She'd wake up when that happened, not startled, just aware. "Did you mess with something?" she'd ask. And when I said yes, she'd sigh, not in fear, but in irritation. "You can't keep doing that," she said once. "It resets things." That was the night I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. She wasn't scared of the house, she was managing it. The last night we spent there together, I tried to talk about it. Really talk. I told her I didn't like how normal it was starting to feel. How we were changing the way we lived around something we refused to name. She listened without interrupting. Then she said, "It's only a problem if you make it one." I asked her what she meant. She thought for a moment. "It doesn't do anything unless you challenge it," she said. "As long as you don't push, it doesn't either." That wasn't comforting. That was compliance. She moved out a week later. Not because of the house. She said it was time, that we needed space, that things were getting too routine. The house went quiet after she left. Not empty. Quiet. I still notice signs sometimes. A light on, a door ajar, a trace that wasn't there before. But they don't escalate anymore, because I don't check, I don't test, and I don't ask questions. She still texts me occasionally. Nothing about the house, just reminders. Leave the porch light on tonight. Don't rearrange the living room. If something moves, let it. She never explains. she doesn't need to. The most unsettling thing I learned wasn't that the house reacted to attention. It was that once two people agreed on the rules, one of us learned how to live with them better than the other. And I still don't know whether she left to get away from it, or because she knew it would behave better if only one of us stayed.